It's a business of basketball. We understand that, and I know he's going to do well down there.
The NBA didn't just break. It completely shattered. Reports are flying that LeBron James himself has dropped the bombshell. James Harden is heading to the Lakers in a move that defies all logic, right after the Clippers pulled the plug on everything else. The fan base is in total paralysis, jaws on the floor, but whispers from the inner circle suggest this isn't over. One final, terrifying decision could still remain. One move that could flip the script entirely, rewriting not just the Lakers' destiny, but shattering the power dynamics of the entire Western Conference forever. It is the seismic event that no one, and I mean no one, saw coming. You know the vibe. You're chilling on the couch, mindlessly scrolling, convinced you've got a pulse on the league, thinking you know exactly how the chips will fall, and then, boom, out of thin air, the entire NBA landscape gets flipped on its head, leaving you dizzy. It's that gut punch moment where you literally freeze, forcing you to reread that headline 2, maybe 3 times because your brain refuses to process the data. You're rubbing your eyes, praying it's a glitch, desperate to confirm that reality hasn't just warped right in front of your face. Well, welcome to the madness. That is exactly the shockwave that hit when the James Harden saga with the Los Angeles Clippers exploded in early February of 2026. But hold on, before we tear into the wreckage, before we dissect the carnage and the fallout, you have to grasp the magnitude of the battlefield we are standing on right now. This is not your average summer drama. This isn't business as usual. We aren't talking about some bargain bin trade deadline where meaningless role players get swapped between losing franchises that nobody watches. No, absolutely not. This is a different beast entirely. This is history in the making. This is that stop the world moment where you sit up, silence the room, mute the TV, and glue your eyes to the screen because you know you are witnessing something legendary. Listen to the noise. I think this offseason might be the craziest ever. The margin is razor thin right now. We're talking about that razor's edge between hoisting a banner and crashing into the lottery. That line has never been finer. And the pressure, the desperation to make that one move, to elevate to championship status, that is consuming the mind of every single GM in this league. Did you hear the weight behind Shams Charania's voice just then? Did you really process the bomb he just dropped? He is labeling this potentially the most volatile, insane offseason in the entire history of the National Basketball Association. And let's be real, when a titan like Shams speaks, a man who essentially owns the news cycle, a man plugged into every front office from New York to LA who drops more scoops before breakfast than most reporters land in a career. When he says the panic button has been hit, you better believe it. He isn't hyping this for clicks. He's sounding the alarm. Here is the raw truth. The NBA is currently balancing on a knife's edge, a precarious cliff that we have never witnessed before. It's binary now. You are either a juggernaut, a legitimate killer with eyes on the Larry O'Brien trophy, or you are free-falling into the abyss, tanking for ping pong balls, praying the lottery gods gift you the next savior. The middle class, dead. Mediocrity, extinct. There is no safety net anymore. You can't just coast as a 7 seed, get swept in round 1, and call it a season. That era is over. It is championship or bust. You win the ring, or you burn the arena down and rebuild from the ashes. And right in the center of this firestorm stands the enigma, the beard, James Edward Harden Jr., an 11-time All-Star, the 2018 MVP, a scoring machine with over 28,800 points, sitting 9th all-time on the Mountain of Legends, a singular force of nature who single-handedly rewrote the geometry of the court, weaponizing the step-back 3 and changing offensive warfare forever. But let's talk about the shadow. Let's address the dark cloud that hangs over the highlight reel, the elephant in the room that stalks him from Houston to Brooklyn to Philly and beyond. The man has been shipped out 5 times. Five times. That isn't a mistake. That isn't hyperbole. That is the cold, hard receipt. 5 times he's cleared out his locker, looked his brothers in the eye, and chased the horizon, praying that this time's time, the ring is real. And then, early February 2026, the news didn't just break, it exploded. Shams drops the nuke. The Clippers and Harden are actively plotting an exit strategy. They are scrambling, hunting for a deal before the grim reaper of the trade deadline strikes on Thursday, February 5th, 2026 at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Sharp. That clock is ticking loud. Sources say they are aligned, actively shopping him to the highest bidder. Translation? This marriage is dead, and they want a divorce times now, asterisk. But wait, did you hear that whisper at the end? The plot twist that changes everything? The Cleveland Cavaliers? Of all the franchises in the National Basketball Association, of every single team that could have thrown their hat in the ring for the services of James Harden, it was the Cleveland Cavaliers that came out of nowhere, emerging from the shadows as the aggressor, hungry to acquire the 11-time All-Star. We are talking about the same Cleveland Cavaliers that serve as the haunted stomping grounds of the one and only LeBron Ramon James. The very same franchise that LeBron abandoned in 2010, ripping the soul out of the city and crushing the dreams of a fan base on national television. The same soil he returned to in 2014, seeking redemption, delivering a miracle championship in 2016, only to walk away again in 2018, leaving the Midwest for the bright lights and purple and gold of Los Angeles. But fast forward to right now, the Clippers, deep in the trenches of the 2025-26 season, were stuck. They were sitting at a mediocre, forgettable 23-26 record. They had barely clawed their way back from the dead after a nightmare 6-21 start to the year. And let's be clear, that resurrection, that fight for survival, that was all James Harden. The man was a machine, putting up stat lines that make the rest of the league look like amateurs, averaging 25.4 points and 8.1 dimes a night. He was dragging this roster back into the playoff picture through sheer grit and undeniable offensive genius. But here is the brutal reality that the box score hides. Stats are a mask. In professional basketball, numbers can lie to you, and they often do. Because despite Harden playing out of his mind, despite his ability to torch defenses night in and night out, the Clippers were trapped in the worst place a sports franchise can possibly be. Purgatory. They weren't dangerous enough to hunt the Lions of the Western Conference, but they weren't terrible enough to crash, burn, and reset the timeline with a top-tier lottery pick. They were zombies, just existing, treading water in a league that chews up average teams and spits them out. And James Harden, at 36 years old, with thousands of hard miles on those legs, he does not have time for average. The clock isn't just ticking, it is pounding. He's sitting on a 2-year, $81.5 million deal, but with a player option and only $13 million guaranteed next year, the leverage shifted. He had the power. He held the cards. He had the ability to force a hand, to dictate how the final chapter of his legendary career would be written. Then came the report that stopped everyone cold. Michael, this is a stunner. The L.A. Clippers and James Harden are actively working on an exit strategy before Thursday's trade deadline. The conversations are happening now. Is there a way out? Can they find a contender that satisfies Harden's hunger for a ring? Because this Clippers team is fighting for scraps in the play-in, and that is not enough. The stage was set for a blockbuster. The pieces were moving on the board, and the entire basketball world froze, watching with white-knuckle anticipation. Everyone was asking the same question. Where does one of the greatest scorers in history go from here? And then the deal that shook the foundation of the league happened. It didn't just happen, it exploded. The speed of this drama moved faster than anyone could have possibly predicted. We went from rumors and talks to a done deal in the blink of an eye. Less than a week, that is how fast this situation spiraled from conversation to execution. That is not normal. That is panic mode. But when you are talking about the career of James Harden, chaos is the only constant. The Heat turned up on Monday and Tuesday, February 2nd and 3rd, 2026. Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix dropped the bomb. Discussions had gone from exploratory to critical. The Clippers and the Cavaliers weren't just chatting, they were finalizing a divorce. The framework became terrifyingly clear as the hours ticked by. James Harden to the land. In return, Darius Garland, a 26-year-old, two-time All-Star, sidelined with a foot injury, but a young cornerstone nonetheless, plus draft capital. And just like that snap of a finger, by the evening of Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026, it was over. The ink was dry. The Los Angeles Clippers officially shipped James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a 2026 second-round pick. One of the most massive legacy-defining trades in recent memory was official, leaving us all to wonder, did Cleveland just buy a championship, or did they buy a ticking time bomb? One blink. That is all it took for the entire landscape of the NBA to be completely rewritten, leaving fans and analysts gasping for air, totally blindsided by a move nobody saw coming. But freeze the frame right there. We need to take a hard step back and dissect the chaotic reality of this moment. Because when you peel back the layers, this trade is not just a headline, it is a seismic shift with consequences that will ripple through the league for years to come. Look at the stakes here. You have James Harden, 36 years old, a guy with a first ballot Hall of Fame resume already printed and framed. But let's be real, he is a man possessed, frantically sprinting against Father Time, chasing the one thing that money and fame cannot buy. That ring. 0 finals appearances on his own watch, 0 championships, just a graveyard of deep playoff runs that promised gold but delivered absolutely nothing but heartbreak. We are talking about arguably the most lethal isolation scorer to ever touch a basketball, yet here he is, packed up and shipped off for the 5th time in his career. Every single time he puts on a new jersey, you can feel the desperation. He is gambling his entire legacy on the hope that this time, it is different. He is praying that this city, this locker room, is finally the sanctuary where he can slay his demons and grab that elusive trophy that has mocked him for over a decade. Then you pivot to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is not a rebuilding project anymore. This is a franchise pushing all their chips into the center of the table. They just took the gamble of the century, pairing one of this generation's offensive geniuses with their own supernova, Donovan Mitchell. Let that reality sink in for a second. Do not just gloss over it. Think about the pure, unadulterated firepower they just unleashed on the Eastern Conference. It is terrifying. You have Donovan Mitchell, Spida, a human highlight reel who can torch a defense for 50 points and single-handedly hijack a game whenever he wants. And now he is running alongside The Beard, a guy with 3 scoring titles, 2 assist crowns, and an MVP trophy collecting dust on his shelf. But hold on, because this is where the narrative shifts from basketball analysis to full-blown Hollywood drama. This is the part where the internet detectives put on their tinfoil hats and the conspiracy theories start burning down social media feeds. We are connecting dots here that might be invisible, but the picture they are painting, it is absolutely electrifying. The Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James's kingdom, the soil where he planted his flag as an 18-year-old prodigy back in 2003, the same city he crushed in 2010 with the decision, leaving Jersey ashes in the streets and a hole in the heart of Ohio. But then came the return. The redemption arc in 2014 that culminated in the greatest comeback in sports history, delivering that 2016 title against the 73-win Warriors, cementing his legend before walking away again. He left in 2018 for the bright lights of Los Angeles, seemingly closing the book on his Cleveland saga. Or did he? The second the news of this Harden trade broke, the whispers didn't just start. They turned into a roar. We are not talking about water cooler chat. This isn't casual debates at the barbershop. We are talking about the deep, obsessive corners of NBA, Twitter, and Reddit, where insomnia-fueled superfans are connecting the clues at 3 in the morning. The theory exploded instantly. Is Cleveland clearing the deck? Are they setting the stage for the unthinkable? Is this entire blockbuster maneuver just a prelude to the return part 3? Analysts are already shouting that this roster, this sudden collection of star power and cap flexibility, screams one thing. It screams recruitment pitch. A win-now roster built perfectly for a king looking for one last farewell tour in his hometown. Now, you have to ask the hard question. Is there a single shred of paper proof that LeBron James is plotting a return? Is there a signed document or a leaked text message confirming this is the grand master plan? No. If we stick to the facts, it is all smoke and mirrors. But in this league, where there is smoke, there is usually an inferno. And honestly, does the lack of proof stop the hype train? Absolutely not. Can you blame the fans for dreaming? This is the NBA, where the impossible happens every Tuesday. LeBron is in LA, sure. but the man is fighting a war against aging, and somehow he is still winning. But make no mistake, at this stage of the game, every move is calculated. Every season is precious. Any year could be the final curtain call for the greatest to ever lace them up. Imagine the visuals: LeBron James back in the wine and gold, finishing his story exactly where it began, flanked by James Harden and Donovan Mitchell chasing one last ring to end the debate forever. That is not just sports, that is mythology. And speaking of history, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the blood feud between LeBron and James Harden. These two titans have a resume of conflict that stretches back over 10 long, hard-fought years. It is a complicated, messy, and fascinating dynamic that has played out on the world's biggest stages. They have clashed 47 times, 47 battles. And LeBron, he holds the keys with 28 wins to 19 losses. But when the lights get brightest in the playoffs, the gap widens. LeBron hasn't just beaten Harden, he has haunted him. 8-2. That is not just a record, that is a statement of total dominance. When the lights burn hottest and the championship is dangling by a thread, one man rises while the other fades. It is a killer instinct you cannot teach, and the numbers scream it louder than any analyst ever could. But dig deeper into the stat sheet, and you will find a war of attrition that reveals exactly who these titans are when they collide. The head-to-head numbers? They paint a picture of two unstoppable forces crashing into each other, but only one walking away as the conqueror. LeBron James is not just playing, he is orchestrating destruction. We are talking 27.4 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 7.2 assists every single time he steps on the court against the Beard. That is complete all-around supremacy, but do not sleep on Harden. He fires back with 23.0 points, 5.9 boards, and 8.0 dimes of his own. He is an elite scoring machine, a playmaking wizard who refuses to back down. These are two gridiron gods capable of hijacking a game in a heartbeat, snapping their fingers, and turning a deficit into a blowout. Yet, history does not lie. When the dust settles and the buzzer sounds, it is almost always the king standing tall over the wreckage, consistently owning this matchup for over a decade. But forget the stats for a second. We need to talk about the bad blood, the spark that nearly burned the arena down. You know the moment, March 1st, 2015. It was a Rockets-Cavs slugfest, tensions boiling over. A desperate scramble for a loose ball, bodies hitting the floor, and then boom, Harden unleashes a kick straight below the belt while LeBron is towering over him. Was it an accident, or was it frustration boiling over? The refs on the floor called it a flagrant one, letting Harden stay in the fight. But the league? They saw something darker. Upon review, the gavel came down hard, a one-game suspension without pay. The message was clear. Do not cross the king. LeBron did not mince words, straight up calling it not a basketball play. But publicly, he played the diplomat, chalking it up to two alpha dogs scrapping for territory, refusing to feed the media circus a full-blown feud. He buried the hatchet, but did he really forget? That flashpoint remains the closest we ever got to a straight-up brawl between these icons. It was physical, it was ugly, and it hinted at a rivalry that could have exploded. Yet, strangely enough, the explosion never came. No lasting vendetta, no trash talk in the press, just silence where the hate should have been. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Over the years, it has been nothing but dap-ups and high praise. They recognize the greatness in each other's game, dropping compliments in interviews and showing love whenever the cameras are rolling. But is that respect, or is it business? Now, let's stir the pot. The whispers out of Cleveland are getting louder. Sources say the Cavs would roll out the red carpet in a heartbeat if LeBron decides to opt out. The rumor mill is already spinning out of control, mapping out wild scenarios where the land stacks the deck with more star power, bringing the king home and bringing his son, Bronny James, with him. Imagine that narrative. A father-son super team storming the Eastern Conference. It is the kind of drama Hollywood could not script. But hold on, because we have to talk about the disaster brewing in Los Angeles. This is where the story takes a sharp, dangerous turn into the unknown. While the headlines screamed about James Harden potentially landing with the Cleveland Cavaliers in a blockbuster shocker, the noise surrounding the Lakers refused to die. You can try to change the subject, but the purple and gold drama sucks all the oxygen out of the room. And this forces us to confront the massive elephant in the room question that has everyone from the nosebleeds to the front office asking, what if? What if James Harden had taken his talents to Hollywood instead? What if the Beard and the King actually linked up? 2 MVPs, 1 roster. Would it be a dynasty or a total train wreck? But let's get real for a second. I am terrified for the Lakers this offseason. Their wallet is light and their options are slim. They are walking into a gunfight with a knife. Insiders like Shams are reporting LeBron is likely opting in. That sounds great, right? Wrong. That eats up the cap space and virtually kills their chances of landing a legitimate third star or that crucial big man they desperately need. Listen to me closely. If the Lakers stand pat, if they run it back with this exact same flawed roster next season, then stick a fork in them because they are done. There is absolutely zero chance they survive the gauntlet of the Western Conference. They will get chewed up and spit out. The Lakers have a mountain of problems that should be keeping Rob Pelinka awake at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling in a cold sweat. We are talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. This franchise does not care about good efforts. They care about one thing and one thing only: hanging gold banners in the rafters. Rings, parades, legacy. That is the DNA of this city. That is the standard. That is the expectation. If you cannot handle that heat, you do not deserve to wear the purple and gold. And looking at this current mess of a roster, shackled by a salary cap nightmare, they are nowhere near ready to go toe-to-toe with the Wolves in the West. They are sitting ducks. The pressure cooker is whistling. The weight on this organization is crushing, immense, and absolutely unrelenting. Sure, Coach JJ Redick proved he can drag this team out of the play-in tournament hellscape. That is cute. That is respectable. But in LA, nobody cares. It is championship or bust. Win it all, or you are a failure. There is no middle ground. There are no moral victories. You do not get a trophy for a hard-fought second-round exit. Nobody throws a parade for heart and determination when you are watching the finals from your couch. In Lakerland, anything less than confetti raining down on Figueroa Street is an embarrassment that demands heads roll immediately. So imagine the seismic shockwave if James Harden actually landed in LA. It would be a desperate, legacy-defining gamble for the 36-year-old, shattering the entire balance of power in the West. Pulling that trigger, it requires a massive gutting of the roster. We are talking complex salary gymnastics, sacrificing key pieces like D'Angelo Russell, Rui, Hachimura, and throwing in every draft pick not nailed down just to sweeten the pot. Is it worth the risk, or is it suicide? This isn't just a trade rumor. This is a seismic event that would drop a nuclear bomb on the entire NBA landscape, shifting the balance of power overnight. Close your eyes and visualize the sheer carnage. James Harden, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, all on the same court, wearing the same jersey. It's terrifying. You combine Harden's isolation surgery and lethal scoring with LeBron's genius IQ, then add AD's monster rim protection. That's not a team. That's a cheat code. Picture the Beard orchestrating the offense, spamming devastating pick and rolls with Davis, throwing thunderous lobs that tear the rim down, while LeBron, freed from bringing the ball up, stalks the wings like a predator waiting to strike. On paper, we are talking about a squad that could theoretically rival the firepower of that Brooklyn experiment with KD and Kyrie, potentially creating an offense so potent it would rewrite the history books and shatter every scoring record in existence. But hold on, stop the tape. There is a massive, glowing red flag waving right in our faces that we cannot ignore. You have 2 alpha dogs who need the rock to breathe. LeBron and Harden don't just want the ball, they times the system. They both demand total control. They dictate the tempo. They run the show. So, what happens when 2 conductors try to lead the same orchestra? Is James Harden really ready to swallow his pride? Can he look in the mirror at this stage of his career and accept being the second or even third option? Does he have the humility to stand in the corner while LeBron wears the crown? Or does the ego that made him an MVP tear the whole thing apart from the inside? These aren't just tactical questions. They are ticking time bombs in the locker room waiting to explode, and nobody has the answers. But here is the reality. The clock is ticking. At 36, Harden can hear the footsteps of retirement, and his motivation is painfully obvious to anyone watching. He doesn't want money, he doesn't want stats, he wants the one thing he can't buy, a championship ring. Despite the scoring titles and the legendary resume, he has 0 rings to show for it. That emptiness is the shadow hanging over his entire legacy. Linking up with the Lakers means joining forces with a 4-time king in LeBron and a champion in AD, giving him one final desperate Hail Mary to chase down the ghost that has been haunting his career for over a decade. But let's not kid ourselves, this is a high-wire act with no safety net, and the danger is real. You're betting the house on 3 aging stars with terrifying injury histories in a Western Conference that is absolutely loaded with young killers ready to take their heads off. But now, let's pivot to the twist that makes your blood run cold. Let's talk about LeBron James and his silence regarding the Harden to Cleveland news. This is the detail that has insiders sweating. This is the mystery that has the whole league whispering. Usually, LeBron is the first to speak. But on Harden moving to his hometown Cavs, nothing. 0. Zip. The most active superstar on the planet has gone completely dark. It's radio silence, and frankly, it is deafening. Rewind the tape to 2021. Remember the panic when Harden got traded to Brooklyn to form that super team? LeBron didn't hide then. He went absolutely viral. He let the world know exactly how he felt about the shifting tides. That reaction became the defining meme of the season, dominating the headlines and setting social media on fire. If you had a pulse and a Wi-Fi connection back then, you saw it. You couldn't escape it. LeBron reposted that legendary sketch by Mark Phillips from RDC World, the one mocking LeBron's frustration about facing yet another Avengers-level squad. The skit was comedy gold, with Phillips screaming at the heavens, embodying a stressed-out LeBron. So it's James, Durant, and Kyrie. I'm 36. I'm 36. Why is it everybody versus me? Bron loved it so much he retweeted it with the caption, I am 36. I am 36. Stop throwing the ball. Just laughing emojis and pure chaotic energy. He was controlling the narrative, laughing at the pain, and showing the world he wasn't afraid. But now, it's a ghost town. No jokes, no viral tweets, no cryptic Instagram stories with hourglass emojis. He's giving the media absolutely nothing to feed on, no breadcrumbs, no bait. It's a complete blackout. Harden goes to Cleveland, LeBron's home, the city where he delivered the promise, and LeBron says nothing. That is suspicious. And that silence, that might be the loudest thing he's ever said. It screams that something is happening behind the curtain. When the loudest voice in the room goes quiet, you know the gears are turning. Let's keep it 100. LeBron James doesn't do accidents. He doesn't miss a beat. Every single move is calculated. Every tweet, every silence is a chess move designed to manipulate the board. He's been the chosen one since high school. He knows the cameras are always rolling. He knows that if he sneezes, ESPN dedicates a segment to it. He knows the game better than anyone alive. So ask yourself, why is he quiet now? What is he hiding? Is he genuinely unbothered? Or is he plotting his next move in the shadows? Because with LeBron, nothing is ever what it seems. You think that's just a coincidence? No way. Not with the Cleveland roots running that deep. The whispers about his return aren't just noise, they're a roar. Or is he playing the long game? Is the king sitting on a bombshell secret, plotting a move so massive he can't let a single word slip until the ink is dry? It wouldn't be the first time. The man moves in silence. He keeps his cards hidden, his face stone cold, waiting for the perfect moment to drop the hammer. Maybe it's strictly business. Maybe he's locked in, blinders on, refusing to let the chaotic circus outside derail the Lakers' desperate push for survival. And honestly, that makes sense. When you're a living legend, you don't chase headlines, you let the headlines chase you. But forget the rumors for a second. Here is the cold, hard truth that just shattered the league. James Harden is officially a Cleveland Cavalier. While LeBron is still donning the purple and gold in LA, the ground beneath the entire NBA just shifted. This isn't just a trade, it's an earthquake. Nobody saw this coming. In the chaotic frenzy of the 2026 deadline, this was the nuclear option that left Jaws on the floor. But here's the twist, it wasn't a war, it was a handshake. A shocking level of cooperation that stands in absolute, brutal contrast to the scorched earth exits and burnt bridges we've seen from Harden in the past. The Clippers didn't panic. They weren't backed into a corner, sweating bullets and making a desperate last-second prayer. No, this was surgical. Both sides looked at the map, saw Cleveland rising from the smoke, and realized it was the only destination that made sense. For the beard, this is it. Another jersey, another city, another roll of the dice in a career defined by constant motion and a desperate, starving hunger for the one thing he can't buy. The numbers, they're undeniable. They scream Hall of Fame. They cement his legacy as a Titan, standing tall among the gods of the hardwood. We're talking approximately 1,095 battles fought, 24.1 points a night, 5.6 boards, 7.3 dimes dropping every game, shooting 44.2% from the floor, 36.4% from deep, an absolute ice in his veins at the line, knocking down 86%, 8-time All-NBA, 3 scoring titles, 2 assist crowns. He didn't just play the game, he broke it and rebuilt it. They'll be dissecting his isolation dominance for decades. But there is a shadow hanging over all that brilliance. One massive, gaping hole in the trophy case. No ring, no banner, no world championship. He's 36 years old. The clock isn't just ticking, it's pounding. He knows his prime is fading and the window of opportunity is slamming shut. Cleveland isn't just a new team, it's a lifeline. This is his best shot, maybe his last realistic shot to finally grab the gold that has haunted him his entire life. The one failure that threatens to define his legacy forever. Will it be a glorious triumph or a spectacular train wreck? Will history see this as a stroke of pure genius or a tragic mistake that's in the hands of the basketball gods now? But I promise you this, the NBA will never be dull. Not while guys like Harden are out there chasing ghosts, hunting rings with absolute reckless abandon, ready to pack up and skip town at a moment's notice just to keep the dream alive. And LeBron, the king, he's the ultimate wild card. He's been keeping us guessing for 20 years. What's going on behind those eyes? What master plan is brewing in the dark? We don't know yet. All we can do is hold our breath and watch the pieces fall. But mark my words, one thing is guaranteed, the eyes of the entire world are locked on this drama. You can't look away. Thanks for tuning in. If this news blew your mind, you need to see what else we've got. Click the video on your screen right now for more insanity. I'll catch you in the next one.